The February 18th, 2021 Planning Board meeting. I'll call it to order. I'll accept a motion for approval of the agenda.
I make a motion, we approve it.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Approval of the minutes. Accept a motion to approve.
So moved.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Before we take the vote, let me say thank you to Tammy for extraordinary hanging in there during that long meeting and taking down everything. Tammy, thank you very much for doing that.
You're welcome, Pete. Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Okay, so Kevin, we have the review and consideration of chapter 16, 17, the amendments consistent with the 160D of the North Carolina General Statutes. You want to make a comment or two before we get started?
Sure. I'll trying to resize this. So can you see the way it should be now is just the memo that I sent. Is that what y'all see?
Right.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. All right. I'll just run briefly through this and then we'll get into the meat of the changes. And we've mentioned this before, but in 2019, the North Carolina General Assembly adopted sweeping changes for land use law in North Carolina as a new chapter 160D in the North Carolina General Statutes. These statute changes require each local government in North Carolina, both city and county, to modify their land use regulations consistent with 160D. Due to the onset of the coronavirus pandemic, the deadline to adopt the changes for each local ordinance was extended from January of this year to July 1st. Planning Board member Bill McCarter volunteered and provided an update to the entirety of Chapter 16, the land use ordinance. Bill also updated Chapter 17, which is the town's minimum housing standards. Full ordinance revisions for Chapter 16 and 17, I included those in your in the email I sent to you. Once we go through this process and is approved by Planning Board, the entire revised text will be brought to council for a public hearing. The effective date would be when adopted, and it will not be later than July 1st. Maybe it will be March, and I hope it is.
Andy, so.
Call
from and
Also, a couple other amendments that I've proposed with Chapter 16. Number one would be to allow single-family houses with accessory apartment uses in central business, town center, general business, and office institutional to be allowed with a zoning permit rather than a special use permit. Now, currently, it's allowed by conditional use permit, but there are other places, for example, the RA district, the R10 district that allow this type of use with just a zoning permit. And I think it needs to be the same for those four districts, which are the two downtown districts, often institutional and general business. And then the other is something that is procedural. We used to regulate commercial design requirements for single family in downtown. Also, two-family residential use, we have regulated commercial design of those structures. That was prohibited by the general statutes just a few years ago. And so I've put some language in there that would remove the provision of commercial design requirements for single family and two family. Single family mainly for downtown, and then two family anywhere in town, because we can't regulate what the design is on those type of structures. So the big packet you received a checklist of the changes from 160D is kind of a summary. Chapter 16, which is the entire land use code, and also Chapter 17, minimum housing standards. I think Bill and I talked today about just hitting a couple highlights about it. One of the main things is the term conditional use permit is going to go away. The term is going, the process is still going to be the same, quasi judicial, but the term is going to be special use permit, and that's across North Carolina. That way, local jurisdictions and cities and counties can distinguish between conditional zoning and special use permits. Conditional zoning being legislative, special use permits being quasi judicial. So at this time, the main changes, everything in the table of permissible uses that refer to conditional use permits, anything else within the description, permitting process, everything that said conditional use permit has been changed to special use permit. So it's going to take, I've been calling them that for 20 years. It's going to take a while for me to not call them CUPs and everything. And for other people too, it'll take time. But special use, that's what we're going to be calling them. And going forward, any amendment to an existing CUP will be a special use permit, and we'll give it a new name as amendments come forward. There was also a provision about conflicts of interest, and Bill may share a little bit about that as we get into the meat of some of the amendments that are being proposed. I don't know if anything else affects us greatly except those two things. And if with that, we're glad to go ahead and start peeling through sections of Chapter 16 if you had questions on them. Let me get to that page if I could share with that. First, let me get to the summary, the checklist. That's what I meant to get to. Okay, so the very first section related to the changes on our land use code. Page 1, some terminology, and there was some additional definitions for building, dwelling unit, bedroom, sleeping unit. A lot of those have been changed. There is language about the extraterritorial jurisdiction. If we expand our ETJ, then we refer to that statute for how we do that. This next section on adopting conflict of interest standards for the governing board and advisory boards, we'll get into that. We'll scroll to that one too.
While you're on definitions, I forgot one.
Okay.
Mobile home.
Yes.
I forgot to take Class C out of there. We took A and B. We changed A and B, but we didn't take C out entirely.
Okay.
A
So Class
was,
C needs to be removed.
yeah. A is a mobile home. B is a manufactured home. Anything after HUD, and then C just goes away.
Okay.
Kevin, give me an example of a sleeping unit. That I found that very confusing. kitchen and sanitary facility, either or, have it or not have it.
Hang on a minute, Mike. Let me get to that. Are y'all still seeing my screen?
Yep.
Okay.
That's just a definition that came right out of the statutes. I don't think there's any reference to it in the code, maybe in the minimum housing, but
We don't have anything that would be a use related to sleeping unit. Everything else is dwelling unit, referred to by dwelling unit. Mike. I don't know if I answered your question, but we didn't have that definition, but it's just been brought in. So
yeah, I think the only time you run into that is for, what's the old definition? Boarding house. And you have
Right.
multiple sleeping units inside one dwelling,
okay.
but you don't see boarding houses anymore.
No, I don't think we're going to see a run on those either.
Yeah. Airbnbs maybe have multiple sleeping units, but
Right. Okay, you want to go back? What else? Anything that jumps out that needs to be discussed?
I had one other question,
Okay.
Kevin. And the term downzoning appears twice, once on page 9-2 and once on 23-1. Explain downzoning, please. Third-party downzoning.
Downzoning would be taking it from a property that would be zoned general business and taking it down to a residential district. I guess the term upzoning would be going residential up to general business. So you no longer have the right to, as a third party, to request for someone else's property to be downzoned from general business or another upper type of high intense zoning district down to a residential district. You can request it for if you own the property, but you can't do so as a third party. And the town or the municipality, local government, can rezone property without the owner signing on. We can rezone property, but your neighbor can't do it for you out of a spite or out of protection issues. They cannot do it for you. Used to be able to, I believe.
yeah.
So that applies to applying a more restrictive zoning requirement to a piece of property. It would be downzoning.
That's right.
Thank you.
So any other comments from board members? Anybody else got questions for Kevin or Bill?
Kevin, it's Mike.
Go ahead, Mike.
On 16-23.6, it makes reference to a comprehensive land use plan. And where are we on requiring a new comprehensive land use plan? Are we close to the limit on that?
No.
2004.
Is this the stipulation that if you don't have one?
I don't have it in front of me. 16-23.6.
All right, let me get to. That's going to be near the end of the.
Michael,
Ultimate issue before Board of Adjustment.
Okay, is this a part we're talking about?
I don't, it's not coming up as far as being shown on the screen.
Oh, it's not?
But it's 16-23.6.
Right. So here's what the section says. Ultimate issue before board on amendments. In deciding whether to adopt a proposed amendment to this chapter, the central issue before the board is whether the proposed amendment, and here's the new text, is consistent with the comprehensive land use plan or any other plan adopted according to 160D 501. We currently have one. When we amend the map, whether it be a rezoning or we amend the text, there has to be a statement that that it is consistent with the comprehensive plan. We don't have a land use plan. We have a comprehensive plan. Some call it land use plan. It's just a general term to talk about your comprehensive plan. If you're adopting a map amendment, the council has to have a statement of reasonableness. And then if they approve a map amendment that is not consistent with the land use plan or the comprehensive plan, the change must be noted on the map. That's just new language there. Bill, anything else on that?
No, and your land use plan really never expires. It just, even though you have a date on it, it's always there. Once you adopt it, you're good.
We've taken the practice over the last 3 that we've adopted of about every 10 years. The last one was 2014. The one before that was 2004. One before that was 93. So on average, about every 10 years. So it's 2001. It's something we're going to start cranking up probably pretty soon. Probably not this year, but maybe the next. Any other questions on that, Mike?
No, thank you.
Okay.
So what else, Kevin?
Let me go to the 2 things I talked about earlier. Hold on just a second, please. So this screen share is not up?
No, it doesn't
Still-
have the memo.
Yeah, it's the memo still.
Oh. Okay, hang on a minute.
16-3.5.
I got to do a new share. I'm figuring this out. Here we go. Now what do you see?
All figuring it out.
Table.
Table? Does everybody see the table?
Yep.
Okay. Okay. This very first page of the use table, where under central business, town center, general business, O&I, where the use is single family residence with accessory apartment. Bill had in there S's because we're going to change all the C's to S's. You can see that down in 2 family. My recommendation is that you allow that type of use in those 4 districts by right with a zoning permit, be it administrative, because you can see the other districts where they're allowed by right already.
Yeah, it makes sense.
So that's one of those things I pointed out, and the other was down in the commercial design standards. Well, I'm in Hold on. I gotta find, I'm in adult establishment, so they ain't gonna work. Article 21. All right, here we go. Going to get there. Okay. In this section on applicability, this down towards the bottom of this paragraph, this is what I struck out from Bill's original amendments. Some section of this article shall also apply to new construction, redevelopment, all this related to single family and town centers. So I removed all of that. And also that commercial design does not apply to duplexes. And you can see that up there where I struck that out because we can't regulate it anyway by statute.
Yeah.
And then the criteria that was applied, the general criteria is in this section, and that's been wiped out as well for single family. Okay. I think that's all. So those are two other amendments that I recommend with these changes for 160D. Okay.
Kevin, are you saying that we need to vote on these two? Or
yes, you could vote on those. Can be separate. You can go with well, you can vote on it as a whole, or you can separate these two other amendments out. Whatever you'd like to do. This one I'm pointing out right now, dealing with single family downtown. We need to take it out anyway. We can't regulate it. So,
Kevin, would it be appropriate to make a motion to recommend to the council the adoption of the 16 and 17 as stated?
yes, that would be fine.
Do we need to review 17 before we do that?
We can. Again, I'll tell you, it was necessary to do, but as I mentioned before, we've probably used Chapter 17 one time in 20 years. If we're gonna, we don't have issues related to minimum housing. If we have anything that's going to be related to demolition of abandoned homes and things like that, we're just going to use the general statute and the building code. Minimum housing is if we have apartments that are the landlord's not keeping them up, and that's where we're going to apply minimum housing. But we don't have that situation. But still, we'll have an updated ordinance. That was my son's text.
so, Mike, could you hold your motion until Kevin and we go through Article 17?
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
Before I go to 17, let me go to chapter. This is not quick. 3. Don't look at the page; it'll hurt your eyes. This is the section on conflicts of interest that Bill wanted to point out. Okay. Bill, you want to speak to this?
Yeah, this is all new, and this is coming straight out of the statute, so it's nothing we had to create. But in addition to the normal boards, I've forgotten how I ended up changing this, but the governing board has the same conflict of interest standards as planning board, board of adjustment, appearance commission, even staff. So we had to drag staff in on this too. but everybody's treated the same. I don't know if I've watched some of the DOT board meetings here lately, and they go through this at the beginning of the meeting. Does anybody have a conflict of interest on anything on the agenda? And then they go through, and each member tells what conflicts they have on particular items, and so they don't vote on those items. But that's just it's a new procedure statewide affecting all public boards.
It's the conflict being if you have a direct, substantial, and readily identifiable financial impact as a result of the decision.
So Kevin, on this language here, moving forward, as Bill suggested, we would have to read this and then have each board member discuss if there's a conflict or not?
That's more procedural on how you do it. I don't think it changes anything with the way that we conduct business. I think it just applies to your service that you can't have a direct financial impact related to something that's come before you for a decision. And you know, if you need to recuse, and we've already had some language related to that. This is just cleared up and is a little bit more direct. And actually, as Bill pointed out, brings staff into the situation as well. So if you've got a financial conflict, that needs to be known. Actually, it would be helpful before the meeting. Say, hey, look, I'm not going to be able to vote in this case. I'm involved. I'm in deep with this project. I don't need to be voting. And
Don't we pretty much already do that?
we do. We do.
Yeah, didn't that situation come up when David was presenting the 444 thing, and he had to recuse himself and not vote, right?
That's right. That's right.
And I did it with the daycare center next to me when they applied for their zoning.
Yes, sir.
It seems to me it's something we already do. If they want it in writing, there it is.
It is.
It
A little
just gets
stronger language
documented.
now than it has been.
Puts the burden back on the board member, basically, or the staff member to make the rest of the board aware of your conflict.
Okay. Without anything else, I'll go to chapter 17. And if there's anything that y'all wanted to look at, we can. This is good work. I got to commend
A lot
Bill.
of red in that one.
I'm sorry?
There's a lot of red in that one.
Yeah. New stuff. I have to
We're in
commend
labor of
Bill.
love,
Y'all,
Bill.
if
Thank
it
you.
wasn't for Bill, we would not be here already. That's a fact. We would be pushing into June to get it done by the deadline. That's no doubt about it. I'm very thankful.
Bill, is there anything that stands out in your mind in 17 that you need to tell us about?
No, you'll never use it.
Okay.
Before we go to 17, there were a couple typos or misspellings in 16. Do you want me to point those out, or do you want to?
Yeah, hang on. Let me get back. Make sure I'm sharing the right screen.
And this is from what I got last week, so it's possible that it changed.
Hold on a minute. What are y'all seeing?
16,
We'll see
3,
16
5,
edit.
2.
Okay, I'm sharing it, but I wasn't seeing it. Okay. Harrison, where was that again?
Like 1613.3 on just in the the glossary or whatever, the index. not that, whatever comes first is,
Oh, at the,
dedications misspelled,
up in this?
accommodations misspelled, requirements is misspelled a couple times.
Within this index?
Yeah, at the beginning. So like the third page, page 3. Requirements. What's misspelled? Building setback requirements.
Oh, I see it.
And then it's a couple
That's
down.
been there. That's been there for years. This is what Bill's doing.
And then dedication is misspelled on that page.
Yeah, that's, you know who did that? Somebody way before me. So maybe we'll do this, but anything that's misspellings and little grammatical stuff, if y'all will email those directly, and I'll, with the master one,
Okay.
I'll correct them.
Okay. Accommodation on page 7. So you may be able to,
eye for that kind of stuff too.
you may be able to like search and replace, because it's chances are that they'll be misspelled more than that.
Okay. This is probably from that attorney we hired out of Haywood County. He messed this thing up.
That's the way they spell it in Haywood County.
Maybe. No, he.
On attorneys, please.
Okay. Anything else, y'all?
So before we go back to Mike with his motion, did you receive any request to speak, or did anybody submit any letters from the public?
No.
Okay.
It other than it being on the agenda and there was nothing. It wasn't a public notice because it's there'll be a public notice that's in the paper for the council meeting, because there'll be a public hearing for that. But no,
Okay.
I didn't receive anything.
Bill, just out of curiosity, are you going to help the council walk through this like you've done with us?
Sure, that's fine.
Okay, thank you for that. And thank you for all the time you put in here. I think we, as Kevin said, we owe you a debt of gratitude for going through this. You better than anybody. I mean, you've been living this stuff for a long time, so.
No problem.
But thank you for doing that. So Mike, back to you.
Well, the motion that I would make is that we recommend to town council the adoption of the changes that are incorporated in the presentation tonight, with the changes in either grammar or spelling that's necessary, and adopting the mobile home language that that Bill suggested would be changed.
I'll second that motion. So any further discussion from members of the board? Anybody want to make any comments? Okay,
Kevin,
we
did you get
have
chapter 3?
I'm sorry?
Did Kevin, did you get chapter 3 amendments? Did I send you that? There were a few things in it.
Hold on a minute. New stuff?
Yeah, well, changes. There were just references. There were some 160A references in there that needed to be changed to 160D.
In
It's just
chapter
on the
3.
first page. I might not have sent it to you.
I don't, oh, okay. I see one right here under oath of office. Okay. I see one on chapter
3-20 Building Inspections Department. And 3-22.
there was one on 3.2.1.3.
Okay. I missed that one.
168.
I'll go back and work on 3 and send that to you.
Okay. The other one,
Let's think about this. Since we're required to adapt 160D, I'd like to go ahead and vote on the motion that's on the table, but come back to that and maybe make a motion to the effect that any reference to 160A should be changed to 160D as a matter of course.
okay.
Yeah, I think that's the only other chapter that it affects.
So Mike, you're suggesting that we go ahead and vote on your motion that's before us now and then propose another motion to cover what you just said?
Yes, I think it'd make it cleaner.
Okay. Well, why don't we go ahead and vote on the motion that's been seconded? And so all those in favor of that motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, so that passes. So Mike, do you want to then go ahead and make the secondary motion?
The motion, and I'd like Bill's help on this, but the motion is that any place in Article 3 that refers to General Statutes 160A should be changed to refer to General Statute 160D.
That's good.
Okay, so we have a motion from Mike. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, the second by Pete. Any more discussion on that? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, that passes. So that brings us to other business. Kevin, any?
Well, we got to do chapter 17. Unless you were, Mike, were you referring to all of it?
I was, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that was my understanding too. So
Okay. I just didn't write that down. Okay.
okay. So other business, Kevin?
I don't have any. Be glad to answer any questions for the state of what's going on in the town.
Yeah, I've got a couple questions. What's the hotel situation with Barker? Is that going to break ground anytime soon?
I suspect when we get weather that's fit to break ground, I wouldn't mobilize in this stuff right now anyway.
Right.
For what they've got to do, they got to tear down two houses. But I anticipate that coming pretty soon. Right there in front, we're getting ready to start within the next week or so, 2 weeks maybe, on that section of the sidewalk there in front of Speckled Trout and all the way around to Morningside. We're working on the storm drainage and getting that curb and gutter and getting that started. So we'd like to do that before they mobilize up on the hill on the hotel. So.
Okay. Did I hear that the developer of the property on Main Street had arranged a deal with Hannah to purchase that property and do some housing down there?
I'm lost. Say,
Okay. Down below the existing place that the new structure on Main Street.
oh, Main and Pine?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Yes. That strip that you said Hannah. Okay, I got you. I was lost. Yes, Steve Hetherington is looking to do a project there between Pine Street and Laurel Lane on that strip
That's
of
correct.
property. And I don't have an application. We've been reviewing plans, but he's wanting to do conditional zoning process. So there'll be open discussion about it. So I don't have anything yet, but looking at townhomes. I believe townhomes. Yes. Yeah, not condos, townhomes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. And then I also noticed there were some surveyors out there at the old, or that small parcel there on 321 and Sunset of surveying. Is something going to happen there?
Across the Scotchman and the other place.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. I don't know how much I could say. I met with him yesterday. So
Okay. I just saw a surveying crew out there and I thought they must be doing something.
There's a tree cutting and cranes. The cranes have been there because they broke down. They were for the guy that was going to remove some trees, and then the cranes broke down. And then the weather got bad, but I think they're supposed to do some tree work for the guy.
Okay.
Not related to the owner. So.
Okay. Anybody else have questions or thoughts for Kevin?
I do. This is Papa here. What about the burned out building next to First Citizens? What is going on there?
Oh, Sherry's building?
Yeah, that's the one.
They're having to do redesign the footers because the soils are bad, and so I think they're waiting on the engineer design on those. That's the last I heard.
So something is still planning to happen there.
That's what I believe. I don't know anything else different.
Thank you.
Has a permit been issued for that?
Yes. Was issued pretty long time ago.
We had a lot of comment about people who are out of town not having notice of planning board or council meetings. It seems to me that the Blowing Rock Civic Association has pretty much that covered with their membership. I wonder if there's anything else we can do to forestall the criticism that seems to come up every time that we don't give notice to people out of town. They have an opportunity to subscribe to the Rocket or to the Democrat if they choose, and they have the window of opportunity through the Civic Association. But that's every time we run into that, there is a complaint by people who don't have a matter of right to speak that they didn't get a chance to be heard. Whether they had a chance to be heard made any difference or not.
I'm glad you said something about that.
What are your thoughts?
I mean, it's easier now than ever to appear at one of these meetings.
Well, I would certainly echo what Harrison and Mike have said, and we only have to go back and look at our recent planning board meeting with Winkler's project where we had some 30 plus people, and we sort of let everybody talk, and they had their say, but some of those people still complain that they hadn't been forewarned or that people were out of town, didn't get a chance. And I would say what Harrison said. I mean, nowadays, if you can't get on a Zoom meeting, doesn't matter where you are. So, but anyway, Kevin, do you want to respond?
No.
The sixth hole property, I think the seller was the country club. Anybody know that for sure?
Yes,
Yeah.
it is.
Well, there are a whole lot of people that were complaining that were members of the country club there.
Exactly.
You kind of have an opportunity to put the scotch on that beforehand.
Maybe they should put it in their bulletin.
The property across the street, the old fifth hole, I think is owned by some of Charlie's family. That's not protected unless they want to put a conservation easement on it. I don't know, and that's not our problem. But I think that people who want to complain about developing properties in Blowing Rock need to be aware that it's not the town that controls that. It's the ownership, and they're perfectly entitled to do what they choose to do with property. Where do we go with that? I don't think we have a dog in the fight except to have our meetings and have people yell at us because we won't shut down something that's perfectly legitimate.
We could start a rumor that we're going to put a water park in there. That'll draw them out.
Okay. Anybody else? Wes, any comments from you?
Nope, thanks anyway.
All right. You've been very quiet tonight. They're just checking. Kim,
That's a
anything?
robot. That's not really Wes. He's got a robot that answers for him.
Yeah.
Haven't seen his face.
Kim, anything from you? Oh, maybe she's not on with us.
No, she's on with Joe there.
Oh, okay.
I'm good. I'm good. No questions here.
Okay.
This is Kim's last one.
Yeah. Thank you, Kim, for putting through and putting up with us.
Well, thank you. It's been a pleasure working beside you all. And I want to thank Tammy and Kevin for their leadership. So it's been a great stance. So learned a lot. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Kim. All right. If there's nothing else to discuss or any other questions from Kevin, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll motion.
Okay. Is second?
Second.
There you go. Get in there.
All those in favor? Aye. All right. Thank you all. Thanks again, Tammy.